What I'm about to tell you isn't just a story of family betrayal. It's proof that raising a grandson with all your love can become the worst decision of your life. My grandson Daniel, whom I raised for 40 years after his parents abandoned him, put me in the cheapest nursing home in town to steal my $400,000 in savings. But that ungrateful bastard didn't know who he was messing with. I was 35 when my daughter Maria showed up at my door at 2 a.m. She was crying, holding a baby and carrying a torn suitcase. "Mom, I can't do this anymore. His father left when he found out I was pregnant. I'm not cut out to be a mother." That baby was Daniel, 6 months old, huge green eyes, and a smile that broke my heart. Maria left the next day, leaving me a note. "Forgive me, Mom. You were always a better mother than me." I never heard from her again in 40 years. That night, while Daniel slept in the crib that had been Maria's, I made the decision that would change my life. This child would be my son, my baby, my everything. At 36, I was changing diapers again, waking up every 2 hours for feedings again, singing lullabies with a voice that was no longer young. My friends told me, "Rose, you already raised your kids, enjoy your life." But when Daniel smiled at me, when he reached his little arms toward me, when he said "Mama Rose" in that tiny voice, I knew I was born for this, for him. His first steps were toward my arms. His first word was "Mama." His first smile was for me. Every achievement, every tender moment, every spontaneous hug filled me with a happiness I hadn't felt even with my own children. Daniel was 3 when something happened that would mark his life forever. We were at the grocery store, and in a second of distraction he disappeared. I searched frantically, screaming his name, running like crazy through every aisle. 20 minutes later, I found him in the men's restroom, locked in, crying hysterically. Someone had accidentally closed the door and he couldn't get out. From that day on, Daniel developed a terrible phobia of enclosed spaces. He couldn't be in elevators, closets, small bathrooms. He had nightmares every night. I was the one who calmed him at 3 a.m. I was the one who hugged him when he woke up screaming. I was the one who invented games to help him gradually lose his fear. I was the one who took him walking in the park when he felt suffocated. For years, I was the only person in the world who could calm him during panic attacks, the only one who knew his deepest fears, the only one who knew that when he got nervous, he unconsciously touched his left ear. When Daniel started school, I was 40. I worked at the textile factory from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., then rushed to pick him up. We did homework together at the kitchen table. I taught him to read, to write, to do math. His classmates' parents were younger, but none loved him like I did. When Daniel got sick, I stayed up all night caring for him. When he was scared, he slept with me. When he cried, I cried with him. I taught him to tie his shoes when he was 5. I remember perfectly. We were sitting on the living room floor, me with my hands already wrinkled from work, guiding his little fingers. Bunny ear here, bunny ear there, and now the ears give each other a hug. He laughed so much that he hugged me tight and said, "You're the best mom in the world." I kept that moment in my heart forever. When Daniel turned 13, I was 48. He started to change. It was normal, all boys go through that. But it hurt when he no longer wanted me to kiss him in front of his friends. When he preferred staying in his room instead of watching TV with me. Still, he was my boy. He came to tell me about girls he liked, problems at school, his dreams of becoming a professional. "Grandma," he'd say, "I'm going to study to be an accountant and make lots of money. I'll buy you a big house and you'll never have to work again." I worked double shifts on weekends to save for his education. I sold my only jewelry, gifts from my late husband, to buy him a computer when he turned 15. "Grandma, you didn't have to do that," he said with tears in his eyes. "You've already done too much for me." "Son," I replied, "everything I do is because I love you. You are my life." When Daniel finished high school, I was 53. He wanted to study accounting at the private university, the best in the city. The monthly tuition cost more than I earned in a month. Without hesitation, I got a second job cleaning offices at night. I'd leave the factory at 2, get home at 3, rest for an hour, then go clean from 4 to 11 p.m. I'd come home exhausted but happy because my Daniel was studying. On weekends I washed other people's clothes for extra money. My hands became rough. My back started hurting, But every dollar I earned was for him. Daniel knew it. He'd come home on weekends and find me washing mountains of clothes. "Grandma, this isn't right. I can work and study," but I wouldn't let him. "Son, your job is to study. I'll handle the rest." When Daniel graduated, I had worked like an animal for 5 years. But seeing him in his cap and gown, hearing his name when they handed him his diploma, seeing his proud smile, it was the happiest moment of my life. After the ceremony, he hugged me tight and said, "Grandma Rose, everything I am, I owe to you. You're the most important person in my life. I'll never forget what you did for me." We cried together. Me with joy, him with gratitude. That day, I thought it had all been worth it. How wrong I was. Daniel got a job at an accounting firm. He earned well, but not much. I kept working at the factory because he needed time to get established. "Grandma, in a few years I'll earn more, and you can retire," he promised me. He came to dinner every Sunday. He brought me flowers, told me about his work, his colleagues, his plans. I prepared his favorite meals. The soup he'd loved since childhood, the stewed chicken I made when he was sad, the flan he loved for dessert. We were a team. He helped me with difficult bills. I gave him life advice. When he had problems at work, he came to vent to me. When he succeeded, I was the first to know. At 25, Daniel was well established. He had changed jobs twice, always moving up. I finally retired from the factory at 60, after working 25 years to raise him. Daniel started having serious girlfriends. The first was Carmen, a sweet girl I liked. They lasted 2 years. I thought he was going to marry her, but they broke up because he wanted to meet more people. Then came Patricia, a nurse I also liked. But Daniel left her because they didn't have much in common. Then it was Liliana. Then Andrea. Then others whose names I no longer remember. I was starting to worry. "Son, you're already 28. When are you going to settle down?" He'd answer, "Grandma, when I find the right woman, I'll introduce her to you first." But I felt something was changing. The visits were becoming less frequent. He didn't come every Sunday anymore. Sometimes he'd call to cancel. "Grandma, I have an important date." "Grandma, my friends invited me on a trip." "Grandma, I have a lot of work." I understood. He was young. He had the right to live his life. But it hurt. After 30 years of being the most important thing in his life, I was starting to feel like I was taking second place. When Daniel turned 30, he introduced me to Sophia. She was a beautiful, elegant, ambitious woman. She worked in marketing and earned very well. From the first moment I knew she didn't like me. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Rose," she said with a cold smile. "Daniel has told me a lot about you." But the way she looked at me, the way she spoke, made me understand that I was an obstacle in her plans. Daniel was infatuated with her. They had been secretly dating for 6 months before he introduced her to me. "Grandma, I think she's the woman of my life," he told me that day. "Sophia is incredible. She's intelligent, successful, ambitious. With her I'm going to build the future I always dreamed of." The visits became even less frequent. When Daniel came, Sophia always had an excuse not to accompany him. "She's busy with an important project," he'd say. But I knew the truth, she couldn't stand me. After a year with Sophia, Daniel started changing with me. Subtly, but I noticed. He no longer hugged me with the same warmth. He no longer told me everything that happened in his life. He no longer asked for my advice. When I turned 65, I organized a small dinner. I invited Daniel and Sophia. She arrived looking annoyed, checked her watch every 5 minutes, and barely touched the food I had prepared with so much love. "The food is too spicy," she told Daniel quietly. But I heard her. "And this house needs an urgent renovation." Daniel didn't defend her. He didn't defend me. He just nodded. That night, after they left, I cried. For the first time in 30 years, my Daniel had hurt me. When Daniel turned 32, he told me he was going to marry Sophia. "Grandma, I know you two haven't connected much, but I hope that over time you'll come to love each other." I smiled and congratulated him, but inside I was dying. I knew that with that wedding I would lose my grandson forever. The wedding was elegant, expensive. I sat in the front row but felt like a stranger. Sophia had invited 200 people. I knew 5. During the reception, Daniel barely spoke to me. He was busy with Sophia's important guests. In my speech, I said, "Daniel, you've been the light of my life for 32 years. I wish you all the happiness in the world." But when I looked at him, he was distracted, talking with Sophia's friends. Daniel went on his honeymoon to Europe for a month. He didn't call me once. I waited by the phone, but it never rang. When he returned, I went to visit him at his new house. It was beautiful, modern, expensive. Sophia had decorated it with exquisite taste. But there wasn't a single photo of me. Not a single photo of Daniel as a child. It was as if his life had begun when he met her. "Grandma, do you like the house?" Daniel asked me. "Sophia has incredible taste for decoration." "It's very nice, son," I replied. "But where are the photos of when you were little? The photos of us?" "Oh, those are stored in a box," he said quickly. "Sophia prefers a more minimalist style." Sophia prefers. That phrase started haunting me. During the first year of marriage, Daniel came to visit me once a month. Always alone. "Sophia is busy with a project," was always the excuse. The visits lasted an hour maximum. Daniel would arrive, tell me superficially how he was, eat something quickly and leave. "I have to go back, Grandma. Sophia is waiting for me." I was starting to feel like I was losing the child I had raised. The Daniel who came to visit me was polite, affectionate, but distant. He was no longer my intimate grandson, my confidant, my companion. One day I asked him, "Son, are you happy?" He answered, "Of course, Grandma. Sophia and I are building an incredible life together." But his eyes weren't smiling. Sophia had specific plans for Daniel. She wanted him to change jobs, earn more money, move in more exclusive circles. "Daniel has potential," she'd tell him when she thought I wasn't listening. "But he needs to be more ambitious." Little by little, Daniel started to change. He bought more expensive clothes, changed his haircut, started talking differently. When I asked him about these changes, he told me, "Grandma, I'm growing professionally. I have to project a more successful image." It was Sophia's voice coming out of his mouth. When I was 68, I was diagnosed with diabetes. I needed special care, expensive medications, frequent doctor visits. I called Daniel to tell him. "Oh, Grandma, what a shame," he said. "Do you need me to help you with anything?" "Son, I'm scared of being alone. Sometimes I feel very bad and have no one to call." "Grandma, I work a lot, but I can get you a nurse to come check on you from time to time." A nurse. After 33 years of raising him, after sacrificing my entire life for him, he offered me a stranger nurse. "Daniel," I said, "I never left you alone when you were sick. I was always there." "Grandma, that was different. I was a child. Now I'm a married man with responsibilities." Responsibilities. I had become a responsibility. 2 years later, when I turned 70, Daniel came to visit me with a proposal. "Grandma, Sophia and I have been talking. We think you'd be better off in a place where they can take proper care of you." "A place? What place, son?" "A nursing home, Grandma, but a very good one. With 24-hour nurses, activities, people your age." I was speechless. The child I had raised, who had slept in my bed when he had nightmares, who had run to my arms when he was scared, was proposing that I leave my home. "Daniel," I said with tears in my eyes, "I don't want to go to a nursing home. I want to die in my house." "Grandma, don't talk about dying. It's just that, well, Sophia and I are thinking about having children soon, and you need more care. It would be better for everyone." Better for everyone. Translation: better for Sophia. Over the following months, I fought against the idea of the nursing home. Every time Daniel came, I showed him I could take care of myself. I cooked his favorite food, kept the house spotless, dressed up to look good. "Look, son, I'm perfectly fine. I don't need anyone to take care of me." But Daniel had already made the decision. "Grandma, it's no longer up for discussion. Sophia and I found a perfect place. It's called Golden Sunset, and it has excellent references." "Sophia and I? What does she have to do with this?" "Grandma, Sophia is my wife. She cares about you too." Lie. Sophia cared about getting me out of the equation. Something in Daniel's attitude started to alarm me. It wasn't just the emotional distance anymore. There was something else. When he talked about money, he got nervous. When I asked him about his work, he quickly changed the subject. One day, reviewing my bank statements, I noticed that someone had been consulting my banking information. When I asked Daniel, he told me, "Grandma, I have access to your account in case something happens. Don't you remember you gave me authorization?" I didn't remember giving that authorization. But at 70, one starts to doubt their memory. One day, Daniel arrived with papers. "Grandma, everything is ready. The Golden Sunset Nursing Home has a room available. You can move next Monday." Next Monday? Can't I think about it a little more? "Grandma, we've already lost too much time. Besides, I need you to sign these papers to make the transition easier." The papers were complicated, full of legal terms I didn't understand. "Daniel, explain to me what these papers say." "They're normal papers, Grandma. Authorizations for the nursing home to take care of you, for me to handle your affairs if you get sick, things like that." I pretended confusion. "Oh, son, I don't understand these things anymore. My head isn't the same as before. Where do I sign?" But I had read every line. I knew exactly what I was signing. Complete legal power over my finances, authorization to access all my accounts, the right to make medical decisions for me. It was my financial death sentence. The following Monday, Daniel came with a truck. "Grandma, just pack the essentials. There's not much space in the nursing home." 40 years of life reduced to 2 suitcases. 40 years of memories, photos, cherished objects left behind. "What about my furniture? What about the photos of when you were little?" "Grandma, I'm going to store everything in a warehouse. When you get settled, we can see what you want to take." Lie. I never saw any of my things again. The Golden Sunset Nursing Home was a horrible place. Peeling walls, smell of cheap disinfectant, grumpy nurses. "This is the cheapest place we found," Daniel confessed without realizing it. My room was a tiny space I shared with a lady who wet the bed. The food was terrible. The nurses treated us like nuisances. "Daniel," I told him that first day, "this place is horrible. I can't stay here." "Grandma, give me time. When my financial situation improves, I'll move you to a better place." But I knew there was no intention of moving me. I was a solved problem. A week after being in the nursing home, I tried to withdraw money from the ATM. The machine said, "Insufficient funds." Impossible. I had $400,000 in my savings account, money I had saved over 45 years of work. I called the bank. "Mrs. Mendoza, your account was closed 3 days ago. The funds were transferred to another account." Transferred? By whom? By the authorized person, Daniel Mendoza. My world collapsed. The child I had raised, whom I had loved more than my own life, had stolen everything from me. I called Daniel crying. "Son, my money disappeared. The bank says you transferred it." "Grandma, it must be a bank error. I haven't touched your money." "Daniel, please, tell me the truth. Where is my money?" "Grandma, I moved it to a safer account. With better interest. Don't worry, it's all there." "Then why can't I withdraw it?" "Grandma, you signed the papers. I handle your finances now. It's for your own good." For my own good? Everything he was doing to me was for my own good. Over the following weeks, I began to understand the magnitude of the betrayal. Daniel had used my money to buy a new house. Bigger, more luxurious. He had bought a new car for Sophia. He had paid off debts he had. My $400,000 had evaporated in 2 months. When I confronted him, he told me, "Grandma, I'm going to take care of you always. You don't need money. The nursing home is paid for a year." "A year? And then what?" "Then we'll see. Maybe things will improve, and you can go to a better one." But I knew there were no later plans. I was going to die in that horrible nursing home, without money, without dignity, without anything. That night, lying in my terrible nursing home bed, something changed inside me. It wasn't just pain. It was fury. A fury that had been sleeping for 70 years. The child I had raised, whom I had loved, for whom I had sacrificed everything, had betrayed me in the cruelest possible way. He had stolen my money, my dignity, my freedom. But Daniel had made a fatal mistake. He had underestimated his grandmother, Rose. He had forgotten that for 20 years I was a supervisor at the largest textile factory in the city. He had forgotten that I managed 50 employees, that I resolved conflicts, that I made difficult decisions. He had forgotten that women of my generation don't reach 70 being naive. The first thing I did was analyze the situation. Daniel had advantages: youth, money, freedom. But I had something he didn't have: knowledge. I knew all his fears, all his weaknesses, all his secrets. I had lived with him for 35 years. I knew how his mind worked. I also had something else: time. In the nursing home, no one watched me. I could plan without rushing. I began my plan by pretending dementia. "Oh nurse, where is my grandson? What day is it?" I repeated the same questions, got confused with names, acted like a lost old lady. The nursing home staff got used to my confusion. Daniel did too. When he came to visit me, I'd tell him, "Oh son, I forget everything. Sometimes I don't even know where I am." Daniel relaxed. He thought his grandmother was no longer a threat. Fatal error. At night, when the nurses thought I was sleeping, I used my cell phone. I had learned to use the internet watching other younger residents. I researched financial fraud, elder abuse, legal rights. I learned to use social media, send emails, search for information. At 70, I became a digital detective. I started documenting everything. Every visit from Daniel, every lie, every excuse. I recorded phone conversations. I took screenshots of my bank statements. I also investigated Daniel's life. I discovered that he and Sophia had enormous debts, that they had been living beyond their means for years, that my money had been the solution to their problems. What Daniel didn't know was that I had anticipated his betrayal. 2 months before signing the papers, when I started to suspect, I had transferred $350,000 to a secret account at another bank. What he had stolen were only $50,000 that I left as bait. My real savings were safe, waiting for the perfect moment to use them. With part of my secret money, I hired an acting agency. Yes, at 70 I learned that such things existed. I gave them specific instructions. I needed them to create a secret family for Daniel. A wife, a child, a hidden life that would be believable. I paid $10,000 for 3 months of perfect acting. The actress was named Carmen. She was 35, beautiful, and turned out to be an excellent actress. I gave her all the information about Daniel, his tastes, his fears, his habits. Carmen started following Daniel. She appeared in places he frequented. Little by little, she established contact. A week later, Carmen called me, "Mrs. Rose, I've established contact." Daniel took the bait. Daniel's son was an 8-year-old child actor named Mateo. Green eyes, resembled Daniel as a child. Perfect for the role. Carmen started sending Daniel photos of the child playing, smiling, crying. "Daddy, when are you coming to visit us?" Daniel, who had always wanted children, softened immediately. While Daniel was getting excited about his secret family, I activated the second phase of the plan. I started using his phobia of enclosed spaces. I hired someone to follow him and create accidents. Elevators that got stuck with him inside. Doors that closed in public bathrooms. Situations that triggered his panic. Daniel started having anxiety attacks at work. He was late for important meetings. His work performance deteriorated. I gave the agency photos of Daniel from when he was young. Fake documents, detailed information about his life. They created a convincing story of a secret marriage that had occurred years ago. Then, I had Carmen accidentally run into Sophia at a cafe. "Excuse me, are you Daniel's new girlfriend? I'm his wife." Sophia froze. Carmen showed her the photos, documents, proof that Daniel had been married and had a child. "That's impossible," Sophia murmured. "Ma'am," Carmen told her with perfect fake tears. "Daniel abandoned us 2 years ago. My son asks about his father every day. When I found out he had remarried, I decided to look for him." Sophia left that cafe destroyed. That night, Sophia came home furious. Daniel told me later, not knowing I was the architect of his destruction. "A woman approached me today," Sophia yelled at him. "She says she's your wife, that you have an 8-year-old son. Is it true?" Daniel was confused. What woman? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. She showed me photos, documents. You've been living a double life. Daniel tried to explain, but Sophia no longer believed him. All this time I wondered where you got the money for the house. Now I understand. You stole from your grandmother to support your other family. Technically she was right, though not in the way she thought. Carmen started calling Daniel at work. Daddy, Mateo is sick. We need money for the doctor. Or Daniel, why haven't you come to see us? Your son misses you so much. At first, Daniel hung up confused, but the calls persisted. Carmen was very convincing. She had precise information about his life. She knew details that only someone close would know. Little by little, Daniel started doubting his own memory. Is it possible I blocked out a trauma? Could it be true that I have another child? The panic attacks at work worsened. His boss, Mr. Martinez, called him to his office. Daniel, your performance has dropped a lot. You're late. You make mistakes. You seem distracted. What's happening? Mr. Martinez, I'm going through personal problems, but I'm going to resolve them. Daniel, rumors have also reached us about your financial situation. Some clients are worried. Is it true that you're being investigated for fraud? It wasn't true, but I had strategically planted those rumors. Of course not. Daniel was desperate. I'm sorry, Daniel. I have to suspend you until this is cleared up. After 2 weeks of constant fighting, Sophia packed her bags. I can't take it anymore, Daniel. I don't know who you really are. You have a secret family. You stole from your own grandmother. Now you lost your job. This isn't the life I wanted. Sophia, please. This is all a misunderstanding. I don't have another family. Someone is setting me up. A setup? And your grandmother's money? Is that also a setup? Daniel couldn't answer that. Sophia went to her parents' house. His perfect marriage had crumbled in 3 weeks. To finish off my revenge, I had Carmen go to Daniel's office when he still worked and cause a scene. I want to speak with Daniel Mendoza, she shouted at reception. He's the father of my child and owes me 3 years of child support. The whole building found out. Rumors spread like fire. Daniel Mendoza is a child support deadbeat. He abandoned his child. He stole from his grandmother to hide money. In a week, the whole city knew who Daniel Mendoza was. Without work, without a wife, with his reputation destroyed, Daniel started to psychologically collapse. He started drinking, neglecting his appearance, isolating himself socially. The panic attacks intensified. He could no longer get in elevators without having crises. Enclosed spaces terrified him. One afternoon, desperate, he came to the nursing home. Grandma, my life is falling apart. Sophia left me. I lost my job. Someone is saying I have a secret family. I don't understand what's happening. I consoled him like the loving grandmother I pretended to be. Oh, son, how terrible. And who could be doing that to you? I don't know, Grandma, but I feel like someone knows me very well. They know exactly how to hurt me. How perceptive. Too bad he reached that conclusion too late. 2 months later, when Daniel was completely broken emotionally and financially, I executed the final phase of my plan. I called him to the nursing home, pretending confusion. Son, I found a box under my bed. It has bills. I think I hid money and forgot. Can you help me? Daniel, desperate for money, came running. Grandma, where is that box? Oh, son, I don't remember anymore, but I'm scared. If the nurses find it, they'll take it from me. And if the government finds out, they'll put me in jail for not declaring taxes. Daniel got excited. Undeclared money meant money he could help move without consequences. Grandma, I can help you. I'm an accountant. I know the laws. We can make everything legal. With a recorder hidden in my pocket, I made him confess everything. Son, explain to me how moving money works. Well, Grandma, there are ways to transfer money without it being noticed. For example, when I moved your money from the bank, I did it in such a way that... And there it was. The complete confession of how he had forged my signature, how he had used my legal power to rob me, how he had planned everything. But son, wasn't it illegal to do that without asking me? Grandma, technically yes, but you gave me authorization. Besides, I did it for your own good. That money I used to buy the house, to pay debts. It was better to invest it than leave it in the bank. All recorded. Every word. Every pathetic justification. After obtaining the complete confession, I let Daniel leave believing he had found a new source of money. But a week later, I called him again. "Daniel, come to the nursing home. We need to talk." When he arrived, I was no longer pretending dementia. I was sitting in my chair, lucid, serene, with a cold smile. "Sit down, Daniel." "Grandma, did you find the money box?" "There is no box, Daniel. There never was a box." His face changed. "What do you mean?" "For 35 years I studied this child," I told him with a calm voice. "I knew each of his fears, each of his weaknesses, each of his desires. I knew exactly how to destroy him." "Grandma, I don't understand." I took out my cell phone and played the recording of his confession. His own voice filled the room. "When I moved your money from the bank, I did it in such a way that—" Daniel turned pale. What is this?" "It's your confession, son. Admitting that you stole $50,000 from me." "But Grandma, you told me you had hidden money." "I lied to you, just like you lied to me for 2 years. Your secret wife," I continued, "is named Carmen, and she's an actress. I hired her. Your secret son is named Mateo, and he's also an actor. I hired them. The panic attacks you've had, the elevators that got stuck, everything was planned by me." Daniel looked at me horrified. "That's impossible, Grandma. You're sick, you have dementia." "Dementia?" I laughed. "Son, never underestimate a woman who taught you to be who you are. Your dementia grandmother learned to use the internet, hired actors, orchestrated the destruction of your marriage, and recorded your confession." I showed him my cell phone with all the evidence, the contacts of the acting agency, the money transfers, the videos of him falling into each trap. "For 2 months you saw me as a confused old lady while I planned your revenge. Every time you came to visit me, and I acted lost, I was studying you, analyzing your next move. But the biggest surprise," I continued, "is that the money you stole wasn't all my money." "What do you mean?" 2 months before you brought me the papers to sign, when I started to suspect you, I transferred $350,000 to a secret account. What you stole were $50,000 that I left as bait." Daniel collapsed in his chair. All this time you had $350,000? All this time, while you were spending my money on your new house and your new car, I had enough money to leave this horrible nursing home whenever I wanted." "Then why didn't you leave?" "Because I needed you to believe you had won. I needed you to let your guard down so I could destroy you completely." "Tomorrow," I told him, "I'm going to turn this recording over to the prosecutor's office. You're going to face charges for financial elder abuse, fraud, and document falsification." "Grandma, please." I also hired the best lawyer in the city with my $350,000. "Mrs. Esperanza, do you know her? She used to be a prosecutor. She says your case is textbook elder abuse, and you could get up to 15 years in prison." Daniel started crying. "Grandma, forgive me. I'll return everything. Drop the charges." "Return everything?" "Daniel, you spent $50,000 in 2 months. Where are you going to get that money? You don't have a job, you don't have a wife, you don't have credit." "But the legal part is just the beginning," I continued. "Do you know what hurts someone like you the most? Public humiliation." I showed him my cell phone with social media. "Your story went viral, Daniel. The accountant who stole from the grandmother who raised him. You have 50,000 comments of people hating you." Daniel looked at the screen horrified. His photo was everywhere. His name was synonymous with family betrayal. "Everyone knows who you are. You'll never get a job as an accountant. You'll never recover your reputation. Until the day you die, you'll be the bastard who stole from his grandmother." "Grandma," Daniel sobbed, "I didn't want to hurt you. Sophia pressured me a lot. We had many debts. She said you were already old, that you didn't need so much money."
Sophia pressured you. Daniel, you're a 35-year-old man. Nobody forced you to rob me.
"But Grandma, I always thought I would take care of you, that the money was to invest in our future." "Our future?" "Daniel, you put me in the cheapest nursing home in the city, and you hadn't come to visit me in 3 weeks before today." I was going to come more often." "Daniel, Lying was your first nature. You lied about the nursing home. You lied about the money. You lied about taking care of me. Why should I believe you now? Do you know what's the saddest part of all this? I asked him. That I spent 35 years raising a wonderful child who became a horrible man. Grandma, the 5-year-old Daniel who hugged me when he had nightmares would never have hurt his grandmother. The 10-year-old Daniel who promised to take care of me when he grew up would never have robbed me. The 15-year-old Daniel who cried when I sold my jewelry to buy him a computer would never have put me in this horrible place. I'm still that child, Grandma. I just made mistakes. Mistakes? Daniel, stealing $50,000 from your grandmother isn't a mistake. It's a conscious and cruel decision. For 35 years, I continued, you were the most important thing in my life. I loved you more than my own children. I protected you. I cared for you. I sacrificed everything for you. And I love you, Grandma. I've always loved you. No, Daniel. You loved what I did for you. You loved me when I gave you money, when I solved your problems, when I cooked your favorite food. But when I was no longer useful, you discarded me like trash. That's not true. Isn't it? When I got diabetes, you offered me a nurse. When I turned 70, you suggested the nursing home. When you needed money, you robbed me. At what point was I more important than your needs? Daniel couldn't answer. There's something you never learned in all these years, I told him. When you betray someone who loves you unconditionally, you don't just lose that person, you lose part of your soul. Grandma, give me a chance. I can change. Daniel, you had 35 years of chances. Every day you spent with me was an opportunity to be a better person. But you chose to be selfish, greedy, cruel. But people can change. Of course they can. But real change requires real consequences. And you're going to face all the consequences of your actions. The next time you see me, I said, standing up, we'll be in court when I testify against you. Won't you ever forgive me? Daniel, forgiveness is something that's earned. And you lost that right when you decided that my unconditional love was something you could exploit. But Grandma, I'm your grandson. You're the only family I have. Exactly. I was the only family you had, and you lost it for $50,000. Daniel left crying like when he was 5 years old. But this time, I didn't run to comfort him. The next day, with my $350,000 safe in my account, I left the Golden Sunset nursing home. I hired a private nurse and rented a beautiful apartment overlooking the park. At 70, I regained my freedom. 3 months later, Daniel faced trial. I testified with the recording as the main evidence. His public defender, he couldn't afford a private one, tried to argue that I had manipulated him. Your Honor, I said in my testimony, for 35 years I taught this young man the difference between right and wrong. If at 35 he decides to steal from the grandmother who raised him, the responsibility is completely his. The judge gave him 5 years in prison and a complete restitution order. Today, at 75, I live comfortably in my apartment. I have a sweet nurse named Patricia who helps me with difficult things but respects my independence. I do activities I could never do when I was working: painting, reading, yoga for seniors. I have friends my age who have also lived through family betrayals. I haven't seen Daniel again. He's in prison, serving his sentence. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did, if my revenge was too cruel. My answer is simple. I spent 70 years being good, being generous, being the perfect grandmother. When that goodness was betrayed in the cruelest possible way, I decided to be strategic. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't hurt him physically. I simply used his own character against him. To the grandmothers and grandfathers listening to me, never underestimate your power. You've lived 70 years. You've survived wars, crises, losses. You're stronger and smarter than your grandchildren think. If any of your grandchildren are betraying you, don't stay quiet. Don't accept abuse because it's family. Family that betrays is no longer family. Daniel will finish his sentence in 2 more years. Sometimes I think if he'll come looking for me when he gets out. But I'm no longer the grandmother Rose he knew. I'm a woman who learned that love without limits can become the greatest weakness. If he comes looking for me, he'll find a woman who no longer forgives, A woman who learned that sometimes revenge isn't a dish served cold, but served at exactly the right temperature to burn. Because grandmothers never forget. And when we remember, we collect every debt with interest. This is my story. The story of how an ungrateful grandson underestimated the woman who raised him and paid the highest possible price, losing forever the unconditional love he can never recover.